It was supposed to be a weekend of relaxation and fun for a group of friends. They rented a remote cabin in the woods, far away from the hustle and bustle of city life. However, what they didn't know was that they were not alone. As soon as they arrived, strange things started to happen. The air was thick and heavy, and a sense of unease settled over them. They tried to shrug it off and enjoy their weekend, but it was impossible to ignore the feeling that they were being watched. Late at night, they heard strange noises outside the cabin. At first, they thought it was just an animal, but as the noises grew louder and more persistent, they realized that something else was out there. Something malevolent. The group huddled together, trying to stay calm, but the fear was palpable. They tried to call for help, but their phones had no signal. They were completely cut off from the outside world. As the night wore on, the presence outside grew stronger. They could hear something scratching at the door, trying to get in. They could see shadows moving outside the windows. They knew they were not safe. One of the friends, a brave soul, decided to go outside and investigate. As soon as he stepped out, he felt a cold chill run down his spine. The woods were eerily quiet, except for the sound of footsteps approaching him from behind. He turned around and saw a figure standing in the shadows. It was tall and dark, with eyes that glowed like embers. He tried to run back to the cabin, but the figure was too fast. It caught up to him and dragged him away into the darkness. The rest of the group searched frantically for their missing friend, but he was nowhere to be found. They knew they had to leave the cabin, but the presence outside was too strong. They were trapped. As dawn approached, the malevolent presence finally retreated. The group gathered what they could and ran out of the cabin, never looking back. They never spoke of what happened that weekend again, but they all knew that they had come face to face with true evil in those dark woods. The abandoned mental institution loomed over the city like a dark cloud. It had been closed for years, but the stories that surrounded it still sent shivers down people's spines. It was said that the ghosts of former patients still roamed the halls, trapped in the decaying building and seeking revenge on those who had wronged them. Despite the warnings, a group of curious friends decided to explore the abandoned asylum. They snuck inside one night, armed with flashlights and cameras, ready to uncover the secrets hidden within its walls. As they made their way through the dark hallways, they heard strange whispers and moans coming from the shadows. Doors creaked open and shut on their own, and the air grew colder with each passing moment. Suddenly, one of the friends let out a blood-curdling scream. The others rushed to his side, only to find him staring at something that wasn't there. "It's the ghosts," he whispered, his voice filled with terror. The group tried to leave, but the doors wouldn't budge. They were trapped, and the ghosts were closing in. They could hear the sound of footsteps following them, and the touch of icy fingers brushing against their skin. As they frantically searched for a way out, they stumbled upon a hidden room. Inside, they found a collection of old patient files, detailing the horrors that had occurred within the asylum's walls. There were stories of patients being subjected to cruel experiments, of doctors using electric shock therapy as a form of punishment, and of unspeakable acts of violence committed by both the staff and the patients. As they read through the files, the ghosts grew more and more agitated. They could hear their angry whispers growing louder, and the air around them grew thick with malevolent energy. Suddenly, the room went black. The friends could hear the sound of chains rattling and the scraping of metal against concrete. They knew they had to get out, but they were too late. The ghosts had caught up to them, and they were surrounded on all sides. The friends tried to fight back, but their efforts were useless against the angry spirits. In a final act of desperation, they lit a match and set the files ablaze. As the flames consumed the documents, the ghost let out a blood-curdling scream and vanished into the darkness. The friends stumbled out of the asylum, shaken and traumatized by their experiences. They knew that they had been lucky to escape with their lives, but they also knew that they would never forget the horrors they had witnessed in that dark, abandoned building. It was a bright and sunny day when the Johnson family inherited an antique doll from their late Aunt Mildred. The family was initially excited about the gift, thinking that it would make a nice addition to their collection of vintage items. However, as soon as they brought the doll home, strange things started happening. At first, it was just small, unexplainable occurrences, like items moving from one spot to another or doors opening and closing on their own. But as time went on, the occurrences became more frequent and more disturbing. One night, the family was awakened by the sound of the doll's laughter. They got up to investigate, only to find that the doll had moved from its spot on the shelf and was now sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at them with its lifeless eyes. From that moment on, the doll seemed to have a life of its own. It would move around the house, seemingly on its own accord. The family started to feel like they were being watched, and strange noises could be heard throughout the house. The family's youngest daughter, Lily, seemed to have a particular attachment to the doll. She would talk to it as if it were a real person, and the doll seemed to respond in kind. But there was something unsettling about the way the doll interacted with Lily. It was almost as if it had a sinister motive. One day, the family decided to take the doll to a paranormal investigator to see if there was anything strange about it. The investigator immediately sensed that there was something wrong with the doll. He told the family that it was possessed by the spirit of a vengeful ghost and that they needed to get rid of it as soon as possible. But the family didn't want to get rid of the doll. They had become attached to it, and they didn't want to believe that it was anything other than a harmless antique. As time went on, the doll's behavior became more and more erratic. It would move around the house at all hours of the day and night, and strange occurrences became a daily event. The family started to feel like they were losing their minds. One night, the family woke up to find that the doll was gone. They searched the whole house, but it was nowhere to be found. They assumed that Lily had taken it, but when they went to her room, they found her fast asleep. Suddenly, they heard a loud banging noise coming from the basement. They cautiously made their way down the stairs, and what they saw made their blood run cold. The doll was sitting on a makeshift altar, surrounded by candles and strange symbols. Lily was standing in front of it, her eyes rolled back in her head, and her body shaking uncontrollably. The family realized too late that they had underestimated the power of the vengeful spirit that had possessed the doll. They had unknowingly invited a malevolent force into their home, and now they were paying the price. In a final act of desperation, the family tried to destroy the doll. But no matter what they did, it wouldn't break or burn. The doll seemed to be invincible, and the spirit inside it was more powerful than they could have ever imagined. The family was forced to flee their home, leaving the doll behind. They never spoke of it again, but they knew that the spirit inside the doll was still out there, waiting for its next victim.